Hello, my friends. Today we're talking about networking. In this episode, our guest is Charlott McAnsh. She is the head of Cinnabons and she's talking about how to get support with your networking. Welcome, Charlott. How are you doing?
I'm really good, thank you. And thank you so much for having me.
Please introduce yourself a little bit more. Tell more about your networking.
So I'm Charlotte McAnsh from Bounds, and we set up the Bounds network as it is now in lockdown. We basically wanted to help business owners to get support, get exposure, and get more connections because that's what it's really all about. But all my life, I have been connecting people. My background is hospitality and events. And it's very much about kind of being in there. People, I love people. I just love working with people of all different kinds, and kind of being able to connect them where they might not see the fit is one of my absolute strengths and something that I really enjoy doing. So that's sort of a little bit about my background and a little bit about what I do.
Fantastic. I absolutely love to talk with networkers because I think they're closest to visibility and authenticity because you instantly will get the feedback. When you talk to people, they will react and you know exactly what works, what doesn't.
Yeah. I
So
think one of the things, though, if you would have asked me a few years ago, was I a networker? I probably would have said no, because I never saw myself as a sort of networker in that sense. But I think I'm a really good listener. And that really helps when you want to connect people. And that's kind of my strength within the business is that I listen to people and what they want and what they want out of a community and who they want to meet, and then connecting them in with the right people is something that I really enjoy. And I realized, you know what, that's kind of what I've been doing throughout my whole career. So it comes natural. And I think when you like listening to people, I'm just fascinated by people. So that's really what it's all about, isn't it?
I absolutely love it. So what do you think about visibility? Because I know that personally, I'm an introvert, so I struggled with networking for a long time. I can say the struggle is over. I'm working on it. So I love people like yourself who actually help me to get to other people instead of me doing the hard work. So thing is, when we do the visibility part, there are plenty of people who join the network and they like, throwing their links or throwing their visiting cards if it is offline meeting, and then nothing happened. They're extremely visible, they're everywhere, pretty annoying to be honest, but they don't realize it. So what is good visibility from the networking perspective?
I think a good part of it is to be a listener. And yes, like you said, you need to be visible in all different areas, but you also need to listen to your audience. You need to listen to what they want. So, if you're thinking of social media platforms, it's all very well to be kind of noisy and being out there and all of that kind of stuff and being seen and posting all the time, but you've got to give the right message. And then you've got to be authentic to yourself. So you've got to kind of give a bit of your personality, but really listen to what your audience want. You saying that you're an introvert, I used to be a very sort of extrovert. And I loved that, when I was younger and I traveled a lot, and, within the hospitality industry, I was very much the extrovert that wanted to nurture everyone. As I got older, I become more of a sort of introvert, but I like to sort of help people becoming a bit more extrovert. So I've taken kind of the skills that I had from my younger days into being more of a listener and support, through the business development that I've sort of worked within for over 30 years. So it's about, I think you need to, when you're going to be visible, you need to have a clear message and you need to listen to what your audience want and how you can support them.
I love this way of visibility when you show up as a listener. I think for many people, they don't realize it. And you said it several times that you are a good listener. This is your strength. And many people need to adopt this idea of asking questions and listen to the answers and then process with them, really to follow up and things like that. But here's the thing about the authentic message. I know for me, it was specifically a struggle for a while because, as I said, for introvert to follow up, That's a question, because it's not authentic to me to reach out and like speak to people. Like you had that extroverted background, you know,
Yeah.
but to me, it was, I can be present on network and I can talk to people and I can play my extroverted side as well, because I've been creative director for a long time. Entering the room full of strangers, no problem to me at all. The question is that somebody else need to follow up after that. It's probably not me, some managers. So this is not my strength. So it's not authentic to me, and I still thinking how to incorporate the necessary along with my personality type. So what is being authentic for networking means, how it works within the networking?
Being authentic, I think, being authentic is a real sort of word at the moment, and everyone is authentic, and you need to be yourself. And I think the more you think about being yourself, the less you probably are. And I think you need to also, by being authentic when if you're in business as well, I think you really need to think about what you want to share. And that's really important when you first start out, I think, because I'm a complete open book. And I'm, my husband very much is as well, but we also discuss things that we might not sort of want to share, and I think it's really important to kind of have that, so you don't touch those areas. But being an open book, you kind of share everything, and I'm very comfortable with that, whereas some people might not be. So I think it's really important when you're talking about being authentic that you have things that you're very comfortable with sharing, but other things that you might not be so comfortable sharing, don't. Once it's out there, it's out there. So really, before you sort of become visible on socials, and if you're setting up your own business, if you have children, think about them as well, and think about your family. And, is it going to hurt anyone by the things that you're saying? Have a clear picture about that. Have a clear sort of message about things that you will discuss and things that you won't. Just by you choosing that you might not want to discuss your sex life will not sort of mean that you're not authentic. It just means that you're sharing certain things, but you sort of don't share a certain other part. And I think that's perfectly fine. A lot of people now, I think, especially within the coaching space, I see a lot of people sharing very personal stuff, which is great. It's if you're comfortable with that, then that's great. And if you can help someone through that message, that's brilliant, because you've helped somebody else. But if you're not comfortable with it, don't do it just because everybody else is doing it. Make sure that you feel comfortable with what you're sharing, and the consequences that it can give afterwards as well.
Yeah, I think listen, but still stay true to yourself, because often people treat like, okay, I did listen, I saw it's trendy, I saw it work, so now I'm going to do it, and then they get all the consequences, and they're like, I didn't supposed to listen in the first place. So they take it all wrong. I think it's an interesting touch that we really, really need to compare this to, and understand that not everything what we hear is true, and really wear it like relatively to what is comfortable for us. So speaking about the support, which our main theme today, what qualities do you think you need to have within a network to get the real support? Because to me personally, I'm quite a networker despite I'm an introvert. I know plenty of people all around the world, and I saw, because in my evacuation from Kiev, from war, I faced a lot of situations when I needed support, and I faced a lot of people who wanted to support me. Now, for some people, support was like, I'm praying for you, which was fantastic. But it's okay, because to take this part as it's what they can give and be grateful for that, it was a lesson to me, to be honest. And there are some people who really want to be involved, really want to help. It's a different type of support. So overall, I saw there are plenty of people who build connections, and they are very supported. They build a lot of like real-time live meetings and things like this. And there are others who trying hard, but they get like, hi, nice, bye, you feel supported? Yeah. So where is that balance? How you need to behave, first of all, to get support organically, normally, not force anybody for that.
So how you have to behave, you said.
Yeah.
I think you need to ask first. You need to be able to sort of ask questions for being able to get the support. And for the person that you're asking, I think it's really important if somebody comes to you and you can tell that they're kind of asking for support, listen. And I'm going to come back to that. It's so important to let them talk and listen to what they're really asking, because a lot of the time, they might not come to you with they might come to you with some problem. So if it's a business, for example, and they say they're scaling up their business, they might think, the growth in their business is really their pain point at the moment. But it might need that they actually need more connections. It might mean that they're looking for a widening, their network. Maybe they want to go on video, but they're too scared to. So they actually, if you start asking a few questions back and you're supporting them in that way, and you listen to kind of more of the root, problem will come out. So I think that's a really, I think when you're in business as well, I think a lot of people are scared of asking for help. And that's a really big point, I think, so that's very much what we do within our network, is asking for those pain points and being confidential then, so people know that they can trust you. So if somebody comes to me and they want to talk, I will let them talk, I will listen, and then I can know how I can support them. And I think it's the same in life. If you came to me and you're having a problem and you're going to talk to me, there might not be the problem you started to talk about. It might be something completely different. And only by me listening to that and letting you speak, am I going to find out actually what you might need help with. And I think that's really something that we forget sometimes. And yeah, it's one of my sort of core messages is to do the listening.
Yeah, I think it's like people often don't realize that other people don't read minds.
Yeah.
And they're sitting there struggling in a corner and they're like, nobody helps me. So sad.
And I think sometimes it's also really about identifying, so I remember when I first started networking, and I'm going to give Robin Harris from Equenergy a little shout out. She was stood in the corner. I was quite new to networking, but I was used to going up to people, and I can often identify people when they maybe don't feel so comfortable. And I remember going over to her and said, "Is it your first time?" And she just opened up, and we're best friends now. We're really close, but that just took that step. She was stood in the corner with her cup of coffee, hiding away. And I think we did the same when I met you. I kind of just went up to you and said, "Hi, are you from here? Did you enjoy the event?" And I think sometimes that's all it takes. And it doesn't mean that you need to kind of be an extrovert or, like you were saying, we all, when we go to social events like that, have a little bit of a mask on, it's because you want to come across in your best eye, and we all kind of have that when we go out. But I think it's sometimes just identifying the people around you as well is really, really important in visibility. So not kind of just being out there, being actually going to see who else might be in the room, who might need support in the room, who might need that question. Maybe that's going to make their day. And I think that's really important.
I love to do the things nowadays. I mean, I've been in that shoes for a long time, to be honest. And when I identify, I meet people in Chamber of Commerce here or something like that. So it's like offline meetings. And I often identify people who just get there for the first time and they're staying there like with a cup of coffee, just like what you say, and you don't feel sorry for them. I mean, it's an important thing to understand for newer networkers. It's not like somebody feeling sorry for you. Most of the time we feel like connected because we've been there in their shoes. We really want to help very, very honestly. And it's really sad for some more mature networkers when you want to introduce these people to them and they're running away. I had this situation once. Somebody from FSB, I think, he was like, very nervous gentleman, but very mature networker. And I wanted to introduce to him a person who literally was within his level of expertise. But he was like running away, very, very proud, very, very diva. And I'm like, we always need to be listeners, carers. I mean, so many roles we need to take as networkers, which is really important to be conscious of, like what roles we really possess. So I feel like you have that very, very nice nurturing energy because even when we were talking in Bristol, I instantly had this connection, and I think I saw you in a crowd before and I planned to talk with you. Honestly, that's an interesting thing. But because there were so many people in that launch, so I mean, I definitely couldn't reach out to everybody. And then I was just appear near you and we had a lovely conversation. So question is, what are your best tips to get into connection which is supportive? Not just network for the sake of networking, really get supportive networking.
Being able to ask is my biggest thing. So don't be frightened of asking. I think, I think a lot of people, and especially if you go back before the pandemic, you put on this mask, you're doing very well and nobody wants to look at being a failure. But actually by asking, you're not a failure. You're just asking for support and then take action. So doing the follow-ups, if you've said to someone that you're going to do something, do it. Because I think that really reflects on you, and this is something that I stood by in absolutely everything I've ever done. And because I really think when you say you're going to do something, do it. If you say to somebody, I'm going to follow that up next week, or I might not have time for a couple of weeks, but I will be back to you X, Y, Z. Do that and take that action, because otherwise it's going to reflect badly on you afterwards, and people are not going to bother to connect you again if you don't take the action. Also, maybe have your goals. I think is really important when I'm talking about goals. Yes, business goals is important and that sort of thing. But when you go to a networking event, don't just go for the sake of going. What do you actually want out of it? And if you're not planning on having, if you don't want to meet new connections, if you're not open to meeting new connections, and you're then not open to taking action and follow up, then what is the point of really going? And I know that maybe sounds a little bit harsh, but I think having a goal, and if you're a little bit nervous around networking as well, it's really good to have a goal to maybe just think, I'm going to come away from that meeting and I'm going to have 2 new connections today that I'm going to follow up with and see how I can support them. And I think that is really, really key to when you go into a room. A lot of people, when they start out in business, go in and literally before you've opened your mouth, they give them their business card, and it's a bit okay, and but you recognize it, and I think sometimes people kind of go, oh gosh, here we go again. Why not nurture them? Why not kind of go, okay, great, you've got a business card, now tell me a little bit about yourself. What actually do you do? Nurture them and educate them rather than kind of just getting a little bit annoyed. I see that a lot in networking groups when people come in and you get handed that business card. They don't know the rules, they don't know what to expect, they don't kind of, if they've never been in that situation before, take a little bit of time and help them, nurture them, and kind of go, great, I love your business card, but actually I really want to know what you're doing now, so tell me about what you do, rather than kind of sell to me. I had the worst sales call ever, I think, yesterday. And we all have had those. And I think it's with as you get a little bit into business, or if you've been in business for a long time, educate them around it. And I actually turned around and said, I'm so sorry, I didn't expect a sales call. I thought this was a collaboration call. Well, he was completely thrown off his sales pitch, but maybe I have just kind of nurtured a little bit that maybe you need to have a bit of a different attitude, because he was also talking bad about one of his clients, which I really didn't like. And therefore I thought, you know what, I want to cut this call short. So I think, your goals is definitely one around what you want to get out of it, because if you're just going for the sake of going, you're not going to have a great experience. You're not going to come away with a great feeling either.
It's interesting. Recently, I was on London networking, which I went there with kind of no expectations, because it was very small networking and it was literally in the shop. It just was created by one of the other networkers from the other meetings and things like that. And I thought it's kind of curious because they're in fashion and I'm like in design. So it's kind of connected industry. And it was lovely. I had zero expectations about any connections because I had no idea who will be there. It's like literally like Christmas drinks or something. So, and I met lovely, lovely people. There was a very small gathering and I didn't even take my cards. So I had such a no expectations that I just had my phone. So I connect with two people through LinkedIn and they were lovely people. We had wonderful conversations. I was there just like for 1.5 hours, had lovely, lovely meeting. And I think this is something to keep. It's like, when we don't rise our expectations, like, yes, I will do the business from this networking, to not approach it as a salesman. Approach is like a nice event, really. Have nice time with people, with nice people, be nice to people,
And changing your mindset as well, like we said, you should change your mindset about if you go there with your goals of what you want to get out and you think I'm going to make new connections, how am I going to be able to support them? If you go in with that mindset of how you're going to support others, your whole persona of how you come across is going to change. And that's a really good top tip, I think, for people who are starting out. Think about, if you went up to someone and shoved your business card into their face before you kind of said anything, would you like that? Probably not. You're probably going to get a little bit annoyed. So yeah, it's a really, I think there's some really sort of a few small things you can do about your mindset before you go into a meeting. That's also going to make you feel more comfortable. And if you think that you can be supportive to someone, it's going to make you feel better about yourself as well.
Yeah, I did listen to the Oprah's, one of the famous speeches of hers, and one of the messages which I personally loved a lot. She was talking about how we can turn any job or anything what we do into service, and that position us completely differently. Because when we go from that, what you say, from that perspective of service, our energy changes. So we're there to serve, to help, to support, to nurture, and wow, it's amazing experience suddenly.
Yeah, it's very true, isn't it? Because, and it's interesting when because as you know, and actually I'm out of my comfort zone today because I don't like talking about myself. I like talking about other people, and which is why I often interview people myself. But once you start listening and once you start kind of nurturing that, you really, when you ask someone as well about a testimonial that they had or a client that they worked with, their voice will change, the whole facial expression will change, and the really true person comes out. So when we're talking about visibility in this podcast, if you think about things that you can kind of project into your audience, it will be little things like that where you're really going to shine because you're talking about an experience that's been really valuable or exciting or really nurturing. And by doing that, people can see who you are and how you can work with them. It's a really great way of being kind of visible and without selling. People just see who you are behind the brand.
Yeah, absolutely. Like being, again, it's back to authenticity, being yourself, 100%. And to be honest, I did take the 2 or 3 rules. Like one of them, never judge anybody. I'm perceptive personality type, so it's easy for me, to be honest. I don't like when people judge me, but I'm very comfortable not judging anybody and see all the perspectives. Never make any decision, but that's a side story about that. But I really don't judge people. Don't judge book by the cover. So anytime at networking, I think it's often the story, like we see the person for the first time and somebody is nervous and they act differently. There was a situation in one of the networkings when somebody come slightly, slightly after drinking something. And then these 2 gentlemen were incredibly annoying. And we anyways were introduced and it was like really not nice conversation. Hello, I met the same gentleman on Chamber of Commerce. And he was like, oops. Because I annoyed him as well. Because I was annoyed first, so I annoyed back. And it was not good before. And he was like, how often you visit in here? And then we had lovely conversation, because honesty is another rule which I take for myself. I say straightforward what I think, what I feel, not always when like I'm not cutting all the edges like with my honesty, but when it requires, I say that. And I was like, I was very uncomfortable with the way you were treating my card. I was very uncomfortable with the way you were talking to me. That's why probably we annoyed each other. And I'm pretty much aware that we was annoyed each other. In fact, I am happy about that. And then we had like a lot of laughter and we had wonderful conversation. So after all, that person wasn't bad. Different circumstances. So to be honest, we don't need to judge anybody. We have to be honest about how do they feel. Because if somebody making you feel uncomfortable, which is I can say a lot in networking, because somebody can throw in cards at you or start doing some sales pitch all of a sudden, or just they try to read of you and they don't know how. That's the worst situation. I end up speaking to somebody for 20 minutes to realize that after 20 minutes she doesn't understand properly what I'm talking about. And she's not interested either, because when the other gentleman from her industry she's jump at him and start talking to him so fast about some numbers and figures, which were like, I couldn't understand a word. Like I understood I was talking to a person who on completely different wave. And she was very, very polite, I would say, to listen to all of that. I, frankly speaking, felt that I just wasted 20 minutes of my conversation. I would rather speak to somebody who would enjoy it. I didn't need polite person. I just needed a person who actually like have some value from this conversation.
But that's the skill, isn't it? Sometimes that you learn with time.
Exactly.
So, but I think, again, that's the thing about the mindset. If she would have just opened up to actually what you were talking about, she probably would have gained more from your information as well. Instead, she was kind of listening politely and then looking for a way out. And you do see that sometimes. And of course, that's going to happen. But I think you can learn a lot from just kind of watching and engaging in a different way. When you go to networking events, I'm usually one actually who's quite quiet. But I'm not scared of going up and introducing myself. But I am very much the person that kind of lets somebody else talk. And sometimes, like you said, you might get somebody who just talks at you and not interested at all at what you got to do. And that's fine. But I sometimes think when that happens, I kind of change my mindset and go, this is what they came for. They need to get their message out. I'm not going to get annoyed with them because they might just need somebody to listen right now, or, and it's kind of, I'm always trying to find then how can I support actually what they were saying. And if you just listen out for little nuggets, you usually find something that you can sort of help with. And then when they see your kind of skill, or when they see what you can help them with, usually their mindset will change as well. And I've seen that quite a lot, which is it's quite interesting, because sometimes people really do judge, and they can judge by all sorts of different things, but that's their choice, isn't it? But you don't have to be the one that judge. I've never been one to judge, and you don't know who you're speaking to either. I think that's a real lesson to learn when you go to networking, because it's a small world. So don't talk badly about someone, because you never know who you're going to be standing next to. And like I said the other day, the sales call who talked badly about one of his clients. I mean, that is just something that you just wouldn't do.
Yeah. And, I start believing after a lot of experiences in my life where I had bad experiences with people, I start realizing that first of all, they reflecting something in me, and I start looking more at myself, what is going inside me, what I need to change to not get this reflection. I consider every single person is a mirror who reflecting us. And that's why I don't judge, because I basically judge myself and they're just a mirror. So if something annoying me, that's me. And it's important part to know that every single person, especially the people who triggered us the most, they're the best teachers. This is what I love to think about the people who I thought badly in my past times. And I think I'm mature enough to say that I only had fantastic teachers in my life. Nobody was bad.
Oh, I think that's true. I think that's very much true. And I remember one of my teachers, geography was never my thing in school. And actually, when I then started traveling, it became a thing. But I remember my geography teacher, so he did a little thing before the exams, and he threw out a paper of, where we had to do a geography test. And I think mine was just disastrous. But I was working in a little shop at the time, and he was the owner of the building, and we were standing outside, and he said, Charlotte, it's not all about the tests, it's not all about this, it's not all about that. You need to just, you do well if you just listen to people, and if and I think maybe that's where that came from, even from a really young age. I loved kind of listening to other people. And like you said, some people come and go in your life, and you have teachers that you might, or people that come forward are teaching you things that maybe haven't felt right at the time. But there's always, I'm a big believer in that things happen for a reason, and you need to connect with people in the same way. So yeah, definitely true.
Absolutely love it. So what else you want to say about supportive networking? Tell me more about that.
Supportive networking. So we've gone through listening. That is my main message. But I also think especially when you're in business, your family and friends are not going to understand sometimes what you do. And that is the joy of being part of different networks. You can't just be part of one network. You need to be part of lots of different networks to meet lots of different connections. If you stay within one circle of group, you're not going to grow. Yes, you might absolutely love that group, and that's fine, but you need to be part of lots of different places to be able to be successful in business. I think that's really, really important. And that's the key point to successful business, is keep making new connections and nurture the support network that you actually, you do as well. You will build your own support network that you can go to as you grow. And it'd be amazing, it's amazing. Just out of we all know about 200 people. So if you think about that, you go to a networking group that might just have 5 people in the room, that's still 1,000 other people that you could reach out to just by being in a small group. People sometimes get a little bit funny about that. They go, how many people are coming to your network? Oh, that's a small number. So I've only got 5 people that I can sell to. Now that is the complete wrong mindset. Think about 1,000 people that you can reach, because each of those people will know another 200 people. And that's the power of networking. That is really the power when you think about how you can support others. So that's what I would like to finish off with. Just go in and find out how you can support others, and you will be successful.
Exactly. And stop treating people like numbers. I think this is one of the advices. Like when you say about the numbers, how many people I can sell today, those are not numbers, those are real people. It helps a lot to think like that.
Absolutely.
Oh, love it. Thank you so much for all your amazing recommendations. How people can connect with you?
Best thing is to go to sinobounds.co.uk, and our handles are at sinobounds.
All the links below.
Fabulous.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. You can find all the links in the description. You can find all the way how to connect with Charlotte or with me, or subscribe and comment, and I will deliver all the comments and questions to Charlotte, and she will make her best to answer your questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been a real pleasure to be on the show. Thank you.
Thank you.